I feel like we have a lot of grit as a generation.
Gen X.
To kind of pull ourselves up by the bootstraps and just kind of keep walking forward. Some of that might not be entirely healthy.
No.
But
a lot of it's not been. There's a lot of messed up Gen Xers.
Well, I'm perfect.
Who never asked for help.
Oh,
yeah.
What do you mean? I don't know what you're talking about. I'm so excited to talk to you.
This is so fun. I love your room.
I love my room too. You know, everything here is so bruh. That
No, I know this room is so different with the pink curtains.
I
and
know.
the blue and the velvet. It's very you.
And the wallpaper. I love this room. I know in our house, nothing is like this in our house because I don't want to impose myself on Bert. And our house is very neutral.
Right.
You know, it's very kind of like a family lives there, but it's not neither
Right.
he nor she. And his room is definitely very he. And my room is definitely very she.
Yeah.
And I like that.
Yeah. No, it's comfortable.
Thank you.
I love it. And the gold. Yes. And these. All of it. It's gorgeous, darling.
Thank you,
It's very
darling.
exciting to be here.
I'm so happy you're here. I asked you a long time ago. We never made it work because I am the worst at scheduling.
That's all right.
I can't. I'm so scattered.
You were like, people around me. People are in my immediate view.
Exactly right. They're like right in front of me. That's all I could wrap my head around. But
That's good. You
how
got
long have we known each other?
Have we started?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was just thinking about this the other day. It was, I moved to LA in 2001. John and I did. And it was probably 2003 I met you.
It was 2000 and...
What was the year you started? What was the year you started dating Bert? It was
2002.
Okay, so
we started like May 2002. And then the play that they did together was... I don't remember when that was happening, but it was shortly after. It was sometime within the next like 12 months, right?
yeah, I don't think you guys have been together very long. when
Not
we
very
met.
long.
No, it was sort of like a new thing.
It was neat.
And you've heard the story, right? Young Bert, young crazy Bert. We knew crazy Bert, and funny, and his image and sort of is out of control. And then he said he was dating somebody, and he's like, well, it's kind of new, and then we met you, and we all went, wait, what a minute, she is gorgeous.
Oh, well.
And she's so together. Like, she's so together. What is going on?
What's happening here?
You're so together. And then I think, it was like, Bert, do not fuck this up.
I think
and he's like, I know.
I think you were not the only one that said, Bert,
No.
do not fuck this up.
I know. I'm sure everybody was saying that to him. Yeah. Because, you're the glue that holds it together. And I don't know how many people have said this to you, but first of all, congratulations to you for The Machine.
Oh,
The movie,
thank
not
you.
the man. The movie. Well, congratulations for him, but to you, like, your name is. I was so excited to see your name as a producer,
Thank
and I
you.
was like, yes. And then your cameo, so funny and so amazing. Your
So
cameo,
goofy.
and I was just, I was inside cheering for you a lot. So
Thank
yeah,
you.
Yeah, it must be really exciting because it's #1, right? I think I saw on Netflix.
Mm-hmm. #1 on Netflix
Incredible.
with no promotion because of the strike. We're not promoting.
Yeah.
And
Don't need it.
just kind of showed up there at the scheduled date and went to #1. And the first day we were completely shocked and not shocked and
Yeah.
excited and thrilled and
fun.
flattered and humbled. And
Yeah.
it's pretty amazing. Thank you for the compliment. I didn't have a whole lot to do with the actual production of the movie, but I had a lot to do with the production of the story.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I got the credit, not to downplay my credit, but just to be accurate about my credit.
Mm.
I'm a lot of what happened to set up this movie being a possibility. And then I did sit in some post, not a lot, but a little bit of post. Bert really wanted me to be in post with him
Yeah.
and go through the post. And obviously I went through the script with him before, but a lot of it was just to support Bert, really, not the film. I sat in post with Bert, and with the director and the editor. So I had a teeny bit, but it really was very teeny. I don't want to inflate because that underinflates the people who really
Of course.
produced it. I mean,
no.
I'm 2% of the actual production.
But
of the
anybody
movie.
that knows you knows that it took 20 years to get to that point, and that you've been there for that in 20 odd years of getting to that point. That's what it takes to get to that point. And you've been right there. You were the first business manager, really. So you were the, so that people have known you that long, know that and see that. And that's really impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah. Because the person, I'm sure Bert gives you the cred, but
he does.
It's nice to also, I think other people see it as well.
Well, thank you very much. I know I was just talking about this to somebody today. I was like, it's, his team has grown so much, not just in this house, but in general, that I think sometimes I am thought of as just the wife, because they don't know that what I've been doing.
Yeah.
And I understand why people would think that. I am not super polished. I am very direct. I don't dress like a business person. I don't even wear makeup most of the time.
Right.
And I am his wife. So I think for the people who know, they know, but for people who don't know, they really don't know. And they're like, oh, it's just his wife. So it's an interesting place to be. It's different than just being, oh, this is his manager. I'm not his manager. He has a manager.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm not his business manager anymore, but I'm definitely his creative and business partner.
Yeah.
I am his business partner. So
yeah,
it's an odd place to be. Sometimes it's really upsetting and frustrating because I do so much, and to be seen as just his wife can be really frustrating. And sometimes I don't like to toot my horn or flex.
Yeah.
But sometimes I'm like, I feel like I have to take care of myself, to go, hey, just so you know.
Yeah.
I know where all the bodies are buried. All of them. From all of you people on this whole team, and for Bert, and for everyone who's ever had a relationship with him. Just so you know, I'm not just like making bonbons. And
do you get dismissed, like with new sort of business people coming into his life and walking into a room, and you're sitting there, and you sort of like the back gets turned and he's addressed and you're not?
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
Not all the time, but yes.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And definitely, it definitely takes a lot, I feel, to be heard. Right? I can say something and they'll go, yeah, and then not do it. And then I'll go, no, excuse me.
Right.
I said something. I'm speaking on behalf of this team or my husband or whatever. And then they'll go, okay, but.
Yeah, but who are you?
Yeah. So It takes, an executive in the process of this movie, I guess, came to me at the end and was like, we were so scared of you when this started, but we're so glad you were here for this process. And so I think.
That's really interesting. They were scared of you.
Oh, I think sometimes I'm a little too direct in this world of business.
Cool. But it sounds like you need to be.
I have to be.
It's better to be that, and then an executive saying that to you, other than that, you're a little quiet and mousy. I wasn't sure. Like, yes.
No,
yeah. And it's.
Well, I think the directness is like, well, who is she and what's she doing? This is just his wife.
Yeah, why are you here?
Yeah. Instead of understanding that I run a lot more than just drop off and pick up.
Right. Well, it's the same. It's.
I mean, you're a business owner.
I was going to say it's women in business. I mean, that's the whole thing. I mean, it's part of why I opened my own space in my own studio, because I found it really impossible to work for a lot of people, men and women at one point, where you're just sort of rolling your eyes and if you've got that urge and go immediately in your head, you're going, this is how I do it. This is how I do it better. This is how it would get done over and over again. You're not a good employee. Really. I mean, you do want employees like that who are able to take something and run with it. But if it's sort of a constant thing moving through your head and you're sort of frustrated, then it's a good idea then to go probably do your own thing.
Right.
That's the impetus for it, and to create something and build something. So, yeah.
So right back at you.
Thanks.
So impressive. I went to your studio on Saturday.
Yeah.
And I haven't been there for a long time. I think I took 1 or 2 yoga classes. And full disclosure, every time I would take yoga, it would throw my back out.
Yeah.
And my trainer has told me it's because I'm an overachiever and I would overstretch. And I go, I can 1 more inch. I can do 1 more inch. And then I can't walk for a week.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, maybe yoga is just not right for my injury, and pivoted into working out.
Well, you were also in like flow classes where that's
Yes.
not where you should have been at that point. You know,
Right.
you have to learn your stability and then that sort of faster movement skills. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah,
Just
that's probably
being with the wrong, the wrong
true.
level, the wrong teacher, not the wrong teacher, but the wrong environment for you at that minute. Yeah. People think it's just yoga, but it's, there's a whole, if you're at the right place, there's a whole system, there's a whole level. And most people are eager to move so quickly, and then they get set back with whatever injuries they have. And then they get frustrated and disappointed. Yeah. So
I loved yoga before I injured my back. I did yoga often.
I know.
And then I was like, well, I can't be doing this. I can't take a week to recover.
Right.
So I'm gonna figure out a different way to deal with my injury.
Yeah.
Which I did.
Yeah.
And I've been real successful at. But anyway, the reason I bring it up is because the last time I was there, I think you were on the first floor.
Yeah, we were still building out.
You were still building
the second floor.
It's
that we were in.
gorgeous.
Yeah, thank you.
It's impressive.
Thank you.
It appears to me to be a thriving business.
I mean, it's kind of incredible. The COVID just shut so many. I mean, I don't know if you know this, the LA boutique. I have a yoga studio, but it's in the boutique fitness world in Los Angeles, and the amount of spaces that closed, yoga studios, Pilates studios, spin, all of them that just could not come back, was devastating. It was incredible.
How did you stay open?
Oh my God.
How'd you do it? This week's Wife of the Party is sponsored by Air Doctor. We live in LA. LA is notorious for not having the best air quality. I know, seems counterintuitive. We're close to an ocean. Looks like to be a lot of fresh breezes, but a lot of traffic here. So a lot of allergens also. A lot of people get allergies in LA from, I think back east we call it hay fever. I do not like allergens in my house. I have a husband who has allergies, and Air Doctor is a great way to keep allergens and pollutants at bay in your home. Air Doctor filters out 99.9% of dangerous contaminants and allergens like pollen, pet dander, dust mites, mold, even bacteria and viruses, so that your lungs don't have to. I love having that air filter. It gives me peace of mind. I don't have to walk around spraying some antibacterial spray because it's just being filtered out by my Air Doctor filter. Air Doctor also comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you don't love it, just send it back for a refund minus the shipping. Head to airdoctorpro.com and use promo code WIFE. And depending on the model, you'll receive up to 39% off or up to $300 off. This is exclusive to podcast customers. You'll also receive a free 3-year warranty on any unit, which is an additional $84 value. Lock this special offer by going to AIRDOCTORPRO, airdoctorpro.com, and use promo code WIFE. Wife of the Party is sponsored by HelloFresh. You know I am a big fan of HelloFresh. I've been a customer of HelloFresh's for years, literally years now, because I hate to cook. I actually hate to cook. I think I'd rather like wash windows than cook. I hate it so much. So the thought of having to plan and shop for a meal is just like the last thing I want to deal with. So HelloFresh makes my life so easy because all I have to do is go to the fridge and open the door, and all my fresh ingredients are there with an easy to follow recipe card, and I'll have a delicious meal in 20 or 30 minutes. And it's something my kids can cook. Because I say I don't like to cook, I'm not really apt to teach my kids a whole lot about cooking. So HelloFresh has been a great way for them to learn how to cook without me being involved. As teenagers, they can just handle it themselves, and it's really awesome. We are just big fans of HelloFresh. Not only do they have, obviously, the meals, they have yummy add-ons for a limited time. They have a fall flavors line. They have tons of desserts like apple cider cake with caramel sauce, or barbecue pulled pork nachos. They have mini pumpkin cheesecakes. HelloFresh is cheaper than grocery shopping and 25% less expensive than takeout. That means less stress in your day and more money back in your pocket, which is awesome. Go to HelloFresh.com/50wife and use code 50wife for 50% off plus free shipping. That's right. Go to HelloFresh.com/50wife and use the code 50wife for 50% off plus free shipping. HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit. How did you stay open?
Oh my God.
How'd you do it?
Pure will, grit, determination, some luck. I mean, there was one point, I think it was September 2020, where I was like, I don't think this is going to work. I don't think we're coming back, because at the time the landlord was, I think one of the big things is that building that kind of community for that long enabled us to have a lot of people that kept their memberships.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went on Zoom. Everybody was Zooming their classes from their house for a long time. And then the landlord was allowing us to pay half the rent, but he was putting half the rent in an account to like back pay later. And so, let's see, everybody shut down in March 2020. And by September, with that half rent building up, we're like, this we're never going to be able to pay this back. You
Right.
just, and I'm, trying to continue to pay your employees and have enough people employed that there's a business still there. And we were one of the lucky ones where he forgave that and worked out a deal so that we could
Amazing.
come back.
That is amazing.
And you would be surprised how many landlords in Los Angeles did not do that.
Right.
And, I heard in New York and a lot of the bigger cities, they were just, we're going to count their losses and go, that's fine, leave. Or I don't think anybody really sued, because it was so hard at that time to figure out like how you were going to come out of this. But yeah, I think we got lucky. We got lucky with community, supporting, holding on to the real estate. And then, and then slowly rebuilding back. So, it's still kind of amazing.
It is amazing.
It's like, I sometimes think back to those days. I'm like, whoa, what were we doing? Like, remember, I don't know. I think that I feel like I've forgotten so much of that time already, because it was all so the same, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
There was so much of it that you were getting up. You had two kids in school on Zoom. I had a kid in Zoom, getting them up, putting them in front of the computer, right? Maybe doing your bit of work. I was, focusing on one class every other day. And then, the family sort of doing things to try and keep together and active, and then going to bed and the same
Starting
thing
it again.
over and over and over again.
Yeah, it was crazy.
And felt lucky that we were some of the lucky ones that just, could figure out how to do that. But
yeah,
it's a weird moment in time that I think we're still all coming out of right now.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think my daughter is just this year really finding her feet completely, coming out of that.
Who, Isla?
Isla, yeah. I think this year is the first year I go, okay, we're back. We're back. She came out of that depressed, deeply depressed, and with a lot of anxiety. And I think in some ways a bit insecure in ways that she was never insecure before, because she was in COVID in 8th and 9th grade. And that's such a pivotal time. 8th grade, you're the cock of the walk, man.
Yeah.
You own the school.
Right.
She didn't get to do that.
No.
We graduated on Zoom. And then first year, freshman year, is when you really figure out the lay of the land. You can scope out new friends. She went to a whole new school where she knew no one. And you can't do that on Zoom.
No.
So it was a real arrested development for her, to not have that hurrah year and then to not have that introductory year, which would have been helpful because her sister, being a junior in her freshman year, would have been great. But she only had 1 year, really, when the two of them were together, which was sophomore, senior year. And it was bumpy for the two of them because Georgia had all these established friendships and Isla had none. And, Isla's like
so tough
riding carpool with Georgia and her friends who were rowdy and raucous. And Isla's like fifth wheel times 1,000, and because she hasn't been exposed to George's friends either.
Right.
If they had had that freshman junior year together, it would have been so much easier.
Yeah.
But I mean, I remember Isla is really close to George's best friend now. But that whole year of carpooling, she so did not understand that young lady and she just made her super anxious and nervous. And I think, oh, what a bummer. I said to her the other day, because she chats with, it's Daisy. She chats with Daisy all the time. Daisy's in college, and Isla and Daisy chat because Daisy's like my third kid. She's practically lived with us for a while. She's at our house all the time. I said to Isla, think back what your sophomore year in carpool would have been like if you could have started with Daisy here. And she was like, it would have been so much fun. So much fun. I think it just stunk.
Yeah, I mean,
It
Nova
stunk.
started a new school, so
That's
she
right.
just started a
Same.
new school, so she was 7th and 8th, and so she'd only gone for a few months, so that was a whole new group of people, and theater saved her.
Yeah.
And
Did they do theater online?
Well, they did theater online.
Awesome.
Well, they did when they had like a little bit of an opening. What they did was they brought the kids in for like a masked performance in the black box. So that was after, I don't remember what period that was. But then it was also as they were slowly going back to school, because she was so invested in theater, it was the theater. So there was a group of kids that are put together, for rehearsals and performances. And so there was in that's why I just, support the arts, everybody. Try and get your kid into something for at least for a little while, because there's just a special kind of group thing that happens with sports as well.
Absolutely.
So, but not everybody has a sporty kid. Happens with theater, happens with those community things, this is why community is so important. And it just really, I think it really saved her and enabled her to go back to that school and not, and to be able to sort of quickly pick up at least with that. And then, it's after school and they have rehearsals and they're all sitting around and they're thrown together.
Yeah.
And through a common love. So, that was a big deal.
That's the best.
Yeah.
So you opened a studio in Santa Clarita?
We opened a studio in Santa Clarita in 2018, middle of 2018. Closed it in September 2020. Was it 2018 or 2019? Hang on a minute. We'd been open 18 months. So it was like towards the end of 2018. Yeah. So we've been open 18 months.
Right.
And I just could not fathom pulling 2 studios up in that way.
No.
It was so anxiety producing.
Right.
Because it's not just about the product, right? It's not about just giving, great classes and as you know, I do rehab work one-on-one and all of that, splitting my time. I have employees between that. But if you're going to pull something like that, again, it's about pulling up community and inviting people in and being really present.
Right.
And I was like, I cannot be present in 2 places. So I had to go to like the flagship. And the landlord actually in the Santa Clarita studio was great, and he would have worked with us. I had a partner, a different partner there. But I can't.
You're only one person.
I'm only one person. Yeah. The next iteration thing I do won't be so much in person. It will,
No.
It will, I want to grow what I do a little bit more, but not have me so present.
Oh.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
I'm building an app. I'm building a yoga school app.
That's awesome.
John's helping me with that, and we're starting to film stuff, and a movement yoga school, kind of the rehab work, as you know, that I do, and starting to put some of the stuff there on that app for people who really, teachers, obviously, and I think to help educate teachers, because historically yoga teachers are some of the worst educated. I think I said that to you. Not in a, I'm not, there's no shade. I was one of them. I am one of them. But there's a lot, it's very easy. It can be very easy in a lot of places to get like a yoga teaching certificate.
So let me change your adjective. Maybe least educated.
Least educated.
Yeah, not worst, but least.
Poorly. Yeah, I said poorly.
Really? So do you think the schools are coming out of give them incorrect information?
I think they give them, I'll say a lot of the time, some of them. Yeah, for sure. Yoga's been a self-sealing educational sort of thing for a long time. And there are a lot of I hear very frustrating cues for the body where I'm like, that's actually not great. And it's not doing what you think it does. And you're creating a compensation pattern there with that cue that you're giving that person over and over again. For example, squeeze your shoulder blades together. Things like that. Bring your arms up overhead and shrug your shoulders down. There are all these biomechanical cues that I hear, and as I, people come from other places, or I do teacher training, and they go, well, I've heard that. And I'm like, I know you've heard it. I know you heard it over and over again. And we're going to go over why that's not a great physical cue to give yourself, or if you're teaching other people. And just because it's like a game of telephone, oftentimes, the yoga teacher training programs. So, and they're easy things to say, and some of them are really easy things to remember. And so part of what I would like to do is to help, not the only person, but to help with the re-education of some of these things and get better and smarter and actually be able to not only help people, but I think the first thing is to stop helping people hurt themselves. Not hurt themselves, but their own practice. Perhaps they're doing that thing over and over again, and we can just say, right now, just don't do it.
Right.
Just stop that. So that part has been really, really important to me recently, that to go outside, and I've gone outside of the yoga system in the past 5-6 years, to get better educated. So, with NeuroKinetic Therapy, all these other assessments that I'm doing, and a couple of other really wonderful teachers sort of within that world. And yeah, it's really eye-opening.
I bet. Yeah.
Because a lot of yoga teachers, I don't know if you've experienced this. Have you ever experienced this in class? A yoga teacher will go in and they'll go, anybody have any injuries?
Yes.
Have you ever been asked that?
Yeah.
And then what did the teacher do if you told them that something hurts?
Nothing.
Yeah.
Right. Or say, don't go quite so deep. Something like that.
Yeah. I mean, so that's the thing. People go in to teach that kind of movement modality because they are great people who really want to hurt people. The Freudian slip. Really want to help people.
Yeah.
They really want to help people. And and we all say that well-meaning. Like I might say that to you, and then go, oh, okay. Well, if it hurts, don't do it.
Right.
Which is really good advice.
Yeah.
But I think we could do a little better.
Right.
If we have somebody in the room with us and we're moving them and we're telling them what to do. And it's hard. You can have a big group class, but I think we can do better. And that's kind of my next thing that I want to build as part of the business. And then if it's on an app and I keep creating educational content, and then I don't have to be in the room because it's limiting, and not everybody wants to, come and be in the room and spend 11, 12 weeks in a teacher training.
Right.
But they can maybe get some other help.
Well, it would be helpful too, I would imagine, for PTs, for physical therapists, for even some personal trainers.
Pilates, personal trainers.
Exactly. Because I know my trainer has like 8 certifications, and he uses a great deal of yoga. But he also is someone like yourself who didn't stop educating himself with one certification. He went, no. If I'm going to present myself as a personal trainer, I'm going to know as much as I can about the physical body, the mechanics, the anatomy, the biology, the chemistry, and everything. And when he focuses on something, it's comes from a lot of knowledge. And I think that's what you're saying. Same thing, right? Is a yoga instructor, I guess, can be a yoga instructor, and that's it at the end of the day. But really, what is the goal of yoga? It's wellness, right? And if you're going into injuring yourself like I was doing every single time, I went to yoga class, my back was in so much pain for days and days, and I would slow it down. I would ease on it, And it didn't matter because the mechanics of my body wasn't being addressed by someone who knew the mechanics of the body.
Well, I think that's the thing that I've heard so much. So, this is something I've dedicated my last, again, like 20 years. I think when I first met you, I was starting to teach. And I was.
I know. Can you believe that?
I know. It's kind of crazy.
I got to ask you questions about that too.
I got my first job. And over the years, that what you've just said, I've heard that over and over again. And, again, this sort of the wrong class, wrong speed, whatever it is. And so really understanding about why that happens. So when you just came for a rehab session with me, and that when I had you on the table, and I do these things called manual muscle testing, where I can test. You can't isolate perfectly, but you can isolate pretty well muscle groups and movements to see what we call our firing in the clear, meaning is that neurological response through that movement, through that muscle happening quickly. And so when you're breathing, and this is a huge thing, and this is the thing that I focus on a lot when I first start working with people one-on-one, when your biomechanics of breathing are not where they should be, you lose all your intrinsic core stability, which includes your lower back, which includes your transverse abdominis, which includes your internal abdominal obliques, which includes the whole corset, which is also back. So when we're efforting and when our biomechanics of our breathing are not properly in place, that's when we, quote unquote, hurt ourselves because something has to compensate for the movement that you're doing. So the thing that and it really requires somebody trusting me, because when somebody's got something going on and you're like, I'm going to focus on your breath, they're like, what? Breath? What do you mean? I know how to breathe. Well, we don't. We don't really know how to breathe. People are not taught how to breathe.
Well, and controlling your breath controls your emotions.
Yeah.
You think it's helping with your stress.
Yeah.
But it's really a coping mechanism to shut off or adjust your breathing so that you don't fill in the blank, fear, anger, aggression, sadness, all those feelings that we're afraid of is all controlled by your breath. Because once you start crying, you think about it the next time you start crying, you don't take a deep breath. And then sob. Exactly.
It's all up here. Yeah.
That's what you do.
That's what you do. All chest breath.
Yeah. So.
And your vagus nerve, which controls the down regulation of your system, comes through the back of your neck and innervates into your diaphragm, and it goes through your diaphragm. There are these holes, these hiatuses through your diaphragm. So when you are in not great posture, when you've got rib flare, you're overarching your back to try and get some strength. Or a lot of us have tech head. The head comes forward and then we throw it back to try and get it back into a proper position. We're choking all of these places that have a lot to do with our stress response or our digestive system or our blood pressure or our venous return, the flow of blood from our limbs back into our heart. All these are all moving through your diaphragm. They're all have holes. And so it's not just I can breathe deep or not, all these things do choke off all of these physiological responses in the body. So a lot of people who have digestive issues, GERD, all of that, can be helped tremendously by proper biomechanical breathing, because then you unchoke how the esophagus is moving through your diaphragm and in your spine. And that just is fascinating to me. I mean that it's not woo-woo. It's just your body. The breath can have this sort of magical aspect, but I love the practical response of when we start putting these systems back into place in the way that we should. And it takes, the privilege of some time and it's not a lot of effort, but it's repetitive effort. Have you been doing your homework?
I have.
Okay, good.
I just read this great quote. It's called, commitment is the start. Consistency is the win. Something like that.
Okay.
You start with commitment. But
Yes.
consistency is where
Yes.
the meat is on the bone.
Right.
Right? It's
Right.
about being consistent. So once you do your exercises or your homework, hope that consistency will then carry on through the rest of your life, right?
Yeah.
Consistency is key to everything, to working out, to healthy diet, to good sleep habits.
Yes.
It's about being consistent.
Well, because everything that we are is because of repetition.
Right.
There's nothing that we're not because of what we've done repeatedly.
Right.
Every single thing. Where you brush your teeth, where you wake up in the morning, how you go to bed, how you're around Trader Joe's with your cart. It's all repetition.
Yeah.
We are ingrained in these over and over and over again. And so it's the same thing with changing the habit with inside the body, with making your glute stronger and down regulating something else. It's the repetition of your brain firing that particular muscle and muscle groups repetitively, getting the other one offline. And that's what we do in NKT, right? We find out which muscle is overfiring, which one is underfiring, and then we take that one that's overfiring, we take it off the motor control for a little bit, and then we repetitively fire up the other muscle until this one over here goes, wait, this is my job. And then you stop, because we call that neural fatigue, right? You're fatigued out, this response, this relationship. But then if you do it enough, and you only need to do it, there's a few hundred times, but it's not that much. Eventually, this one that shouldn't be firing in that pattern stops, and the one that should does. And then the repetition of you doing that consistently then is now already in your brain.
Right.
Then your brain finds it over and over again. You don't have to think about the repetition. You don't have to do the homework. Now that pattern, that repetition is in your brain, because that's what the brain wants. It wants easy pathways.
Yes.
Right? It doesn't want to have to think about everything. You don't want to think about breathing.
No.
You can't do that, but you can do it a little bit in the morning and a little bit in the evening until your brain goes, oh, okay.
Well, that's the way.
That's the way.
Yeah. That's so awesome. So NKT is, define that, please.
So that stands for NeuroKinetic Therapy. The very cool, groovy dude, David Weinstock in San Francisco, created it couple of decades ago. I actually don't know when. At least a couple of decades, maybe 25 years ago. And there are practitioners all over the place, all over the world. It is a worldwide network. And there are physical therapists. I have a PT mentor as well that I work with. And that is the modality, and there are these different levels that you can move through of literally the motor control of the brain. And it's based on motor control theory, right? These patterns through the brain. And then when compensation patterns and pain, whether it's pain that you're just sitting with or pain when you're doing big movements, doesn't have to be constant, where a part of the brain has now got set in a pattern where it's the wrong patterning. And then we repattern the muscle group through that motor control system. And the method of neurokinetic therapy is to find those patterns. And so that's what the whole modality is about. And it's brilliant, and it works, and it's fast.
Do you have a miraculous change?
I've had quite a few. I mean, just from things like I can't move my arm, or it hurts when I get this, my arm only goes up halfway. And then you can, if you're in the right place after 10 minutes of figuring out together, doing a little release on here, activating the right place, and then all of a sudden the arm goes up. And so that's really, really common. I mean, it's cool. There's those things happen over and over and over again.
How rewarding.
It's really rewarding. Yeah.
It's got to be.
Yeah. Or some of the really fun stuff is scarring. A lot of women have C-section scars or post-surgery scars, where you'll do a manual muscle test where, the person can't fire their glute muscle, and then you'll touch the scar, and all of a sudden the glute muscle turns on. Because scars are a really high hierarchy for taking motor control, because they heal in these patterns that are
not
incredibly
natural.
strong. Yes, they network together in these crisscross patterns. And so if your brain can't find a stable place when you're doing whatever you're doing on the treadmill, it can't find that stable place. It can often find a scar, which is stable. So it will take that motor control from the scar first and then move down whatever chain. There are these places we call them, they're kinetic chains in the body, like walking patterns and stuff. And so scar work is really cool. It was like, what just happened? What are you doing? I don't understand. And that's really fun. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, there's some really fun stuff.
So cool.
Yeah. It's very, very rewarding.
So what were you doing before you started teaching yoga? I mean, I know these answers, but I'm asking.
Well, I think when I met you, I was teaching part-time. I was bartending at Le Deux Café.
I remember that.
Yes, Michel Lamy's Le Deux Café in Hollywood on the Monday night. Did you ever go to the Monday night? The Monday night, like super high, like celeb night.
Ooh la la.
Yeah, it was, I don't know if that happens. I'm not in that Hollywood scene at all.
Yeah.
But I don't know if there's a place like that anymore.
I don't know either.
Where there's like one night and the doors are thing and all they let in is people on the guest list and celebrities and that was really fun. That was like one of my first jobs in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Bartending on that night. That was a real like, oh, Hollywood, look at all this. It's famous people all the time.
Who did you see there?
Oh, I mean, it was like, it was Nicole Kidman, and then, Radiohead would come in, and I mean, every actor, every, Seal. I remember Seal, such a sweet man. I really loved him. Robbie Williams, just any actor you sort of name at that, certainly being in Hollywood at that time, so like 20 years ago, and still there, that's who were there at one time or another.
Right.
Yeah, it was so packed. And so I was auditioning as well, kind of. Yeah, I mean, I was auditioning. And I just got to the point where that was the day, those were the days when commercial auditions, did you ever have a commercial agent? No. Okay. So 20 years ago, you had a commercial agent. You were going out all the time. It's very different now because the market's so saturated. But it would be like a couple a day, 2 or 3 a day. You'd have to go down to Santa Monica and then back up and then back to Santa Monica. And I remember rolling my eyes. I started rolling my eyes when auditions came in. Because I was like, I can't really go to my yoga class. This is messing up my day. Yeah. And the minute you start saying that as an actor, this is messing up my day. It's time to rethink.
You should pivot.
Yeah. It's time to rethink.
Yeah.
I was just really frustrated. And so that's what I was doing when we first got here from New York, which is what a lot of people do.
Yep.
I mean, you were acting, weren't you, for a little bit?
For a minute, yeah. For just a minute when I got here. I quickly decided this was not the town for me for acting. And that acting, I was a girl that was like, oh, she's probably better for this role. She should do this role. I'm not good for this role. I'm good. So I started working for one director. She just put me in everything she did. And that's kind of all I did. And I was like, I'm good with that. I'm going to write and I'm going to hustle my 8 other jobs and I'm going to focus on writing. And I'll act when she asks me to, but I'm not auditioning. I don't want it. That was so stressful. And I never have been the like, no, me, it's me. I'm the one. I've never been that girl. I'm just not, I don't know that I'm not confident, but I'm really good at sharing.
Yeah. So yeah, you are. That's why you're good in this organization that you're sitting in right now. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have kind of ego like that where I'm like, oh no, I'm the only person who could do that. That's not my brain.
Right.
So in Hollywood, it kind of has to be your brain.
Yeah.
That, oh, I'm the only one who can have this role.
For sure.
Well, I was like, well, that's not true. 8 other people could play this role probably better than me. So if I get it, I get it. If I don't, I don't. And then you just can't be an actor that way.
Yeah. No.
Writing was much more suited to my personality where I was like, no, this is how the story goes because this story's coming out of my brain.
Right.
So you can give me notes on it and we can talk about it and I'll do something different maybe, but this is my brain.
Right.
So obviously that was a better fit. I
worked in PR for a minute too as well when I got here.
You did?
Yeah. So again, very like, I don't know why I had this very funny entree into sort of the Hollywood scene. Yeah. I worked in PR. For this person.
that another story for off the camera?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, the PR world is I don't, do you guys have?
We have had PR companies
at
as needed basis.
Yeah, it's a very particular scene, I think, the PR world and people who work in the PR world.
I agree. We were lucky in that we worked with people who were not what you're talking about.
Yeah.
They were a much more kind of business oriented.
Yeah. And so, I did a little, there's a little David Caruso thing that I helped out with. And he did a movie called Sessions 9, and she did some party stuff. And that was for a minute in that world. And I was like, no, this is not the world for me. Just sort of organizing stuff for other people.
Right.
Who are demanding stuff. I was like,
no can do.
No, I do not like this. Take me out of this. And it was sort of fun for a hot minute. But
and then not.
No.
So you were going to yoga class, and then did you decide what made you decide to start teaching?
Being very opinionated.
As I just described myself to be.
Being very opinionated. Yeah. And part of it was, wow, yoga's really expensive. But maybe if I get certified and teach yoga, I can teach in a place and then I'll have a free yoga membership. That was literally, because it was before I was going to quit acting. So I wasn't thinking I was going to sort of quit going around the audition circuit in LA. But, sort of starving artists, it was about, I could get a free yoga membership.
Right. It was a hustle, sort of.
It was kind of a hustle.
A shortcut.
But also, having a very particular view, coming from the New York yoga scene and going to the LA yoga scene, and then thinking about the classes that I really like to take and wasn't really finding them. And so I was like, oh, I think I have a point of view.
Right.
I mean, that was it. I think I have a point of view. And I'm confident that I have a point of view, and I can perhaps get across that point of view of what this could be. And then that's when I took a couple of teacher trainings then, and then started teaching. Brenda Strong had a yoga studio in North Hollywood. It's sort of in her front of her house at the time. She just started, I started teaching for her, and then she got Desperate Housewives. So she was sort of gone a little bit, and then that catapulted her to other jobs. And so I sort of took over her studio for a little while, and then they decided to close it. And that's when I said, well, I built this community. And, it's interesting because building the community, which I realized at the time I hadn't had Nova yet. If you're going to be in LA as well, it was like, I want community for her. If I'm going to put some roots down here and thinking ahead and knowing that I wanted to have a kid, at least one, I was like, what would that look like? And how also can I build some sort of community that's stable? And that was also one of the reasons for opening up a yoga studio. I mean, it really worked, thoh. It did. It really did.
It worked in a huge way.
It did. I just had this feeling about it because it was before, obviously schools can give you community, and this was before getting pregnant. But I just knew that how important that was if you're going to have a family somewhere.
Yes, true.
And it can be so transient here.
It can be very transient here. Our little elementary school our kids went to was really beautiful in that way too. Yeah. It was another avenue to create community for you, I'm sure. Yeah. But that's great. Yeah. That's great that was part of your purpose.
It was really a really big part of the purpose.
Was it?
Yes. I would say. I think I would say it was it was really the seed.
Well, it's funny you say that, because as I am transitioning slowly into this empty nester phase, right? I'm home alone a lot because my high schooler is out and about. And I am here a lot with the ladies downstairs. And I thought, isn't it interesting that at this time in life, this is when this studio got built. Obviously, it didn't get built for me and my social life. That's not why we're here. We're here to support Bert and everything that's going on in his career. Yeah. I mean, 2% might be wife of the party. The rest of it is all Bert. And that's wonderful. But the side effect of that, when I've always obviously been Bert's business partner, but we didn't really have a company really until very recently. I mean, our Jennifer downstairs just came on board in September, I think, last year. And then Christine Pierce joined us in like October. And then we just kept adding people. Now we have 12 people.
Wow.
So in March, I think it was early March, when Bert and I were like, somebody's got to be the boss. And Bert's not built to be the boss. So I'll be the boss. One of the things that I enjoy is the community is sitting downstairs with Rachel, and Jennifer, and Christine, and Victoria, and just being together, right? They're all so good at what they do in their own lane. And it's just, I think we are starting to create a little community here. And when I look forward and go, one day we may not need this community anymore, I'm going to be really sad. I'm going to miss all the ladies downstairs in the living room.
Why would you not need this community anymore?
I don't know, because, things ebb and flow. And, Bert and I have always approached this business as be here in this moment and enjoy and be grateful in this moment, but realize that this moment won't last forever.
So smart.
And so, that's why we didn't buy our first house until we could afford to buy a house that was not much more overhead than renting a 2-bedroom apartment.
Yeah.
And we stayed there for a long time because we were like, everything's going great now. But what if we get this big house that's, a gazillion dollars and now we can't pay for it anymore? We always need to live so that we can pay for what we have. So when we finally bought this other house that we live in down the street, we put enough of a down payment down that we're not paying very much more than renting a 2-bedroom apartment here for our monthly overhead for just like the basics.
So few people in LA do that.
Almost nobody that we know does that.
That's why it will last.
Because I am just not going to be insecure in where I live.
Yeah, it's awful.
I'm not going to be.
Yeah.
I will not do that. And we always thought if we can't afford a 2-bedroom apartment, we need to close the doors.
Right.
We need to be Santa Clarita and go, what are we doing?
Which is where we are. Yeah. Which is what we did. We bought a house we could afford. That's why we're there.
100%.
Yeah.
That's why we bought the house. The little house we bought that we lived in for so long needed so much work.
Yeah.
But again, I was like, the monthly payment is the same as a 2-bedroom apartment.
Right.
So we put the cash in and do the electric. We put the cash in and add a bedroom.
Right.
But our monthly payment is a 2-bedroom apartment.
Yeah.
So because we've always kind of, you live surrounded by people who have massive success for 5 years.
Right.
And they buy and build their world for that 5-year period.
Right.
But your life is long. And I don't want to be house poor and, I don't want to be worried about anything. So if we decided we wanted to buy a bar in the Bahamas and shut all this down, we really could.
Right.
We're not going to do that.
Yeah.
But I would miss the ladies. And your community is your point. I don't think it's a coincidence in the universe that this started building for me at this point in time in my life.
Well, you had more time though as well, right?
Yes.
As the girls got older. I mean, it makes me think, and I've always felt really lucky that I've had, and I only have, one kid. She's 16 now. I've had purpose all the way through, also being a mother and building something and having a place to go and being appreciated. My friend Sarah Jane, she's in New York. She comes, visits, and she goes, you don't know how lucky you are. You walk in somewhere and people appreciate you. Yeah. And it's so rare.
Yeah.
And again, at this, empty nest and, another year, 2 years, less than 2 years of Nova being at home before she goes to college. And I think it's a crisis that a lot of people feel, men and women, maybe more women, just because of the rootedness that motherhood can give a lot of women. A lot of women don't work as much, perhaps, if they can afford it. It's a privilege if you can, be at home with your, kids. And then there's this moment of like, well, who am I? I feel very lucky that even though the grief of being an empty nester
It's gonna,
is going to come, but I don't believe I'm going to go through an identity crisis of who am I in the world because I've had not just have the privilege, but I've had to keep an identity. It is part of who we are and how we survive in the world. But I think it can be very discombobulating and a real depression and a crisis for a lot of people who there's an empty nest, and if they are with somebody, looking across and going, who are you, and then what am I supposed to do? And I think it's also women entering the workplace at a certain age, as we know, is also incredibly difficult.
Yes, it is.
People don't always want to just have to go work at Walmart. There are some places you'll always get jobs, but then who are you in the world at a certain point after you've done the mummying?
Yes.
And brought them up.
Yeah, it's a weird existential crisis for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Right? I know all my group is in some phase of this right now. And it's been fascinating to watch how we are weathering it as a group and individually.
Yeah.
And the people I didn't think would have trouble are having trouble. And there's some gentlemen in our group that are really, really having trouble.
Yeah.
And our career people, it's just identified so strongly with being a parent.
Yeah.
And you're still a parent. It's a transition. Nobody's dead. It's just a transition in your own brain, right? Of what your purpose is as the parent. Your purpose changes. My purpose with Georgia is very different than it is with Isla.
Right.
And I think Bert had a really hard time with that transition, with understanding where he fit for Georgia. I think it took him the whole freshman year of college to figure out where he fit with her. What was his purpose with her? What's my relationship with her about? How do I approach a relationship with her now? He's
like keeping a long distance relationship. Is that what you mean?
He's always had a long distance relationship.
Yeah.
But he knew about what was happening in her life because of me.
Right.
But I don't even know what's happening in her life.
Right.
So he'll ask me and I'll go, shit if I know.
Yeah,
Man, I had no idea.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm comfortable
not knowing
with that long rope. He's not comfortable with that. He's like, well, how can you not know? Because she's 19 and she's doing exactly what she's supposed to be doing. She's passing her classes and she's obviously drinking and smoking weed, but she's not being crazy.
Right.
And
I'm not supposed to know what
I'm not
she's doing.
supposed to know. Did your parents know what you were doing in Florida State? Taking your clothes off and streaking down the street?
Well, our parents didn't know what we were doing when we were 15. Never mind 19.
Right? They had no idea.
So like Gen X.
And his uncomfortableness with me not seeming to care. And it's not that I didn't care.
Yeah.
It's that to me, that was what was appropriate. It's appropriate for me to always be there. For me to check in and go, thinking about you, love you.
You've surrendered into the not knowing really quickly.
Yeah.
And it's the control of the fear of letting go and letting her be an adult in the world.
Is she ready?
Right.
What's the world going to do to her?
Yeah.
What's, what are the things that we haven't taught her? How's she going to make it? Like she just applied to work at Home Depot and Bert was like, are you kidding me?
Oh, that's so cute.
And I was like, I love it. Bring it on. You should totally work at Home Depot.
Why Home Depot?
I don't know.
It's great.
Who cares why? It's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that.
She's your daughter.
She's my daughter.
Home Depot.
Right? Well, the thing about it is I go, no ego in that kid.
No.
Total humility.
Yeah.
Doesn't care what it looks like.
Yeah.
Wants to learn.
Right.
She wants a job that she's not invested in like a career.
Right.
A job at Home Depot, you show up, you punch the clock, you do your work, and you learn so many invaluable things from work because you don't want to go to Home Depot after you've partied all night the night before, but you're going to go.
Yeah.
Or you're going to get fired.
Yeah.
And getting fired is a great lesson.
Right.
Failing is a great lesson. And fail on Home Depot's time, right?
Yeah.
Do that. Go for it. Get your minimum wage. See what that feels like. You know what I mean?
What state is she in again?
I'm not telling you on this podcast.
Got it.
But
okay.
I'll tell you later.
Yeah, you told me. I love that it's Home Depot. I love how unusual that is. That she will learn, she's going to learn about lumber and tiling and lighting and
what she'll learn is how to stock a shelf.
Stock a shelf.
And how to say, oh, you're looking for a wing nut?
Yeah.
It's on aisle 8. That's what
she's
she'll
over
learn,
there.
right?
No.
Exactly. But I think that's great.
Yeah.
I mean, she's only ever worked for us.
Right.
She PA'd for Something's Burning over and over again. She PA'd last year and this year for Fully Loaded. And she did a great job. She's a great worker. And she's a self-starter in a lot of ways. She doesn't need a lot of help, unlike her sister, who needs a lot of scaffolding. As her last counselor said, she needs a lot of scaffolding. She can get it done. You just got to scaffold everything up, and then she'll do it. But Georgia doesn't need any of that. So I'm like, Godspeed. And Bert's like, is she an idiot? Why is she working at Home Depot? What's wrong with this kid?
So judgmental, Bert.
Exactly. And I'm like, dude, you should be so proud.
Really?
You should be so proud that your little girl, whose daddy is this big famous comedian, wants to go work at Home Depot.
It's hard to get a job in LA. So you can't also get those types of job in LA, even if you wanted them. This is not, they don't hire 16-year-olds or in high school.
No.
And so then she gets to experience, there's most kids out there in other places that are not, I don't know why it's so hard for teenagers to get. Nova tried to get a job last summer and applied. Nobody ever called her back. They're not interested. But if you go to other places in this country, they will hire 16. People are working at the ice cream parlor and things. And so I think it's fantastic. I mean, I love the Home Depot.
I do too.
I mean, I think more, and now I'm going to go like, okay, more girls need to go work at Home Depot.
Right? I'm so fascinated to see what she learns because she's, really good at articulating what she learns.
Yeah.
She'll be able to tell you what she learned.
Yeah.
Probably my manager is an idiot will be the first thing because, at 19, she knows everything, as do all 19-year-olds.
Yeah.
But it'll be cool to see. But yeah, this is I feel that way too. I feel like what you were talking about, having a purpose and an identity. I think that taking on this job was perfect for me in that role too, because I've always had a purpose, but the purpose has been I'm still a Girl Scout troop leader. That's a big part of my purpose. We had 13 years. Kathy and I have been doing that. 13 years.
Yeah.
And we have 2 more years because we have 2 more years of girls. We have Nova's age and the year younger. So that's a purpose for me. That to me is like a public service in its own way.
It is, yeah.
And I thoroughly enjoy it with Kathy. I love it. But that's going to be over in a couple years.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think this opportunity for me to come in and help Bert and help our company grow was perfect for me to shift my identity a little bit into an adult space.
Yeah.
Because obviously I'm a Girl Scout troop leader. I started it for my child.
Yeah.
And my child is still hardcore into it. But she's leaving and I'm still doing it for 2 more years because I've committed to this group of girls.
Yeah, you got to get them through the... Yeah.
I'm not going to leave this group of girls. There's no way.
Right.
Because that's not who I am. And that would... how terrible that would look and feel to them to just be like, and my daughter's done, so I'm done. I would never. Your
style.
Not at all. So I'm glad this purpose kind of showed up so I can kind of transition into that over the next year or so.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody needs a place to go.
Yeah, they do.
Everybody needs a place to go. I mean, it is, again, it's go back to opening up a space.
Mm-hmm.
I need a place to go. Obviously, making a living is a massive part of it, but I needed a place to go.
Yeah.
And then opening the doors was like, also other people need a place to go.
Yeah.
So I get to welcome in people who say this, having this, showing up, having that, I'm here Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, and seeing the same people or seeing the friendly faces or meeting new people is massive.
Yeah.
That little bit of touchstone,
mm-hmm.
because I'm going to go back to COVID. Too many people got used to isolating themselves and not going back to the touchstones, it takes a lot of effort. And I think it was definitely at a certain age. You're a certain age, you get isolated. It's so much effort to go back out into the world and either make new friends or get back in touch with, that group that you sort of saw before COVID a little bit. And then it just is so easy not to do it. It's so easy to drop those loose connections or even the strong connections and end up being by yourself.
Yeah.
And that kind of isolation, we know we have an epidemic of loneliness. It's a huge thing. With England has a whole minister now of loneliness. I don't know whether it's called Minister of Loneliness. Sounds like it could be, right?
Minister of Despair.
The Minister of Loneliness.
Despair.
Sounds very English, doesn't it?
So despair.
Yeah, no, they did. It's a health epidemic.
Wow.
Yes. And
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Not entirely surprised, because I think it is hard. You know what's interesting? I think as we age and grow generationally, I was thinking about this morning and about how our generation just has so much grit, right? I feel like we have a lot of grit as a generation.
Gen X.
To kind of pull ourselves up by the bootstraps and just kind of keep walking forward. Some of that might not be entirely healthy.
No.
But
a lot of it's not been. There's a lot of messed up Gen Xers.
Well, I'm perfect.
Who never asked for help.
Oh,
yeah.
What do you mean? I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know how to ask for help. So maybe, I don't know.
We had the Gen Z kids who are the exact opposite.
I know. Well, that's
who
where
talk about
I was
everything.
Sort of going.
Yeah.
That's where I was sort of going, is where I go, you and I are not going to sit in loneliness like others. And I think there are fewer of us in Gen Z than there are in Gen X. Where Gen X, because we grew up outside with neighbors, we didn't sit in front of a device all day. Or even if you were watching ABC, CBS, NBC, there's only 3. So somebody, when you walked outside, had something to talk to you about.
Right.
Everything's so broad and vast now that sense of community is more mysterious. I think it's more kind of smoke and mirrors kind of fog, especially our kids who went through this pandemic where they were truly forced to be isolated.
Yeah.
I think it is harder to start those things over. And it became harder, I think, for some Gen Xers and probably baby boomers too, especially boomers. I know so many people who lost a spouse and then just don't know what to do.
Yeah.
In my dad's generation, they're just like done.
Yeah.
And I keep thinking, how can you just be done? There's got to be a community center, go to church. Doesn't somebody play bingo on the reg? Go somewhere and meet somebody. Go to the movies. Ask your neighbor. And but people just don't.
Well, I'm gonna go off on a little bit of tangent right now. That's related to that and what we see in this country now. So there's something called, you heard of parasocial relationships?
Never heard of that.
Okay, so parasocial relationships is the relationship that you think that you have through your device on social media.
Oh.
So when you're talking about being outside, we grew up outside, out on the street. Our street was the street everybody played at. So you could go out and there's relationships in front. And then what happened, it was happening anyway, but COVID forced everybody to have their relationships through their devices. If you had other people in your house, but through your devices. So it happened in, I think, 2 very profound ways. The first very profound way was our kids and Gen Z, and through TikTok. There's sort of an organized thing through TikTok. Of course, it started as dances, but a lot of our Gen Z kids got really, I'm going to use the word like awoken up to like what was actually happening in the world. They didn't really have political news, and all of a sudden, they're looking at their devices. So they're seeing a lot of different things that they may not have spent so much time on. And then so then they created relationships through certain creators. And then what happened a lot with boomers and probably Gen X's was these parasocial relationships that a lot of them were based on fear. So all of the sort of like the swirling of conspiracies that just have kind of like, I feel like mud and have been like mud in this country for the past 3 years.
Yes.
Has taken over some of the real relationships that you might be having with people in your community and actually getting different points of view from real people.
Right.
So a lot of people develop these relationships through 2 or 3 very magnetic personalities on social media, and they're telling you what's going on instead of the person down at your bingo or at your post office. And so you're getting this very cultivated relationship that started, a lot of Gen X's were complaining about their parents being, co-opted into this kind of really swirling, not very pleasant conspiracy world. And so that's the parasocial relationship, that's your friend through your device.
Right.
And so it's overtaken. So a lot of boomers, I think, have not gone maybe so much out there because of that. Those relationships have been very important and not so great all the time.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's an interesting, and it's a new phenomenon, right? This parasocial thing where you feel like you're in relationship with somebody. That's what it feels like. You feel like you know the person on your device, but you don't. And so it might stop a further reach that you might do. Like you said, why aren't you going to bingo? Well, you might feel like you've gotten something out of that and that day and that you're sort of done. But it's a bit of a Black Mirror.
Yeah, it's not
thing.
real.
Yeah, it's not real.
It's not based on reality.
Yeah.
And then I would imagine it makes you harder to listen to humans.
Yeah.
It makes it harder to listen and accept what a human says, especially if it's not in line with the person that you feel aligned with. We all have this little part in our brain, I think, where people know what's in your brain, good or bad, right? I think there's a little bit, because before I don't remember how old it is, but before you're like 3, you don't understand that people can't actually hear or your thoughts. It's very young.
Oh, really?
There's a certain point where you're developmentally, you realize you don't know what's in my brain. So then you can start lying and like sneaking. That's toddler behavior. But I wonder if there's just a little piece of that left in our brain where we have some piece of us that, we're betraying that one parasocial relationship by hearing something else that may made us doubt that parasocial relationship.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Very threatening to that, where you're getting a fulfillment.
Your loyalty, where your loyalty lies.
Yes.
So you shut it down. Yes. Instead of getting a diverse set of real conversational in a group. Yeah. Well, what is it? We're so tribal. So after, I can't remember how many people it is that we can hold in, I don't know whether it's less than 100, but after that, we're unable to really hold we're sort of in our DNA is we can max maybe have a relationship, whether it's really distant or real, with about 100 people.
Interesting.
And then after that, it becomes really difficult. And so that's when it becomes tribal. So you just kind of close up into, we all close up into a sort of tribal group, which is understandable. So you're getting a lot of that sort of tribal thing through your scrolling on your social media now. It feeds into that whole. My day is done. I've had my socialization. And what have you done, really? No. I think about it like sometimes I don't do it so much anymore. And I don't know if you did this with your kids when they got on. Nova wanted to get on TikTok. She was not on any social media before the pandemic. But I let her on that because what are you going to do? I mean, she really wanted to do it. And then, but I would sort of like wake up in the middle, sort of in the morning and going, okay, what is really happening? Like where are her real relationships?
Yeah.
Like really being concerned.
Yeah.
And seeing kids and hearing about kids, again, I felt very lucky that she was able to kind of pop into a group dynamic at school. But we know that there are a lot of kids that did not do that and that stayed in those relationships only through their devices.
Yep.
Which puts a pit in my stomach when I think about that.
I know. I feel like there's so many experiences that they're missing out on by not engaging in regularness.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I worry about Isla's super social, so she's always out and about. I'm not so worried about her, but I see other kids at her age group who aren't inclined to go to the school dance. And you're like, there's something that you just need to go. You know, you need to go. I don't care if you like to dance or not.
Right.
I don't care if the pretty girl's going to win prom queen. You need to go because it's part of life. And you don't have to go and stay for hours, but go because it's outside your comfort zone.
Right.
Go because you need to be around people your age.
Right.
Go because you're making a memory.
Right.
And you'll never have the opportunity to be a sophomore in high school again and go to the dance. There's so many reasons you should go, but these youngins just love their comfort zone. And I think that device is a problem with that because they're not forced out of it to make friends, to work on a school project. There's so many things that are done remotely or online. Even still, I'm working on Zoom with 3 friends on this project. Well, why can't you all just come to my house and we order a pizza and you work on it together? You know, why can't you?
Right.
Wouldn't that be more fun? And Isla says, not really. And I'm like, well, why would it not be more fun if you're not all together? He's like, well, I mean, Zoom is fine.
Yeah.
And Isla's highly social. I'm not worried about her spending too much time on Zoom with her friends. She's got plenty of time outside of Zoom. She's kind of balanced that way. But I know some kids don't want to do anything.
Well, because it's now because there's so much entertainment through that. It's before that, it was like, well, I could be bored at home or I could be bored at the dance. Right. All right, I'll go be bored at the dance.
Yeah.
Or I could be uncomfortable at the dance, or like you said, I could do the thing that it like creates because it's the dopamine of the the anticipation of what's coming up next is where the dopamine comes in. So that creates this cycle of like that's very comfortable. And there are chemicals that you get literally for being comfortable. But going to a dance where you're like, I don't really, it's not going to be something that feels very high anticipatory, exciting for a lot of these kids anymore. And that's, there's a whole depression thing that's happening obviously with kids because of this now. I don't know what the solution is. I don't have any. Other than it's an experiment on our kids that we don't know where it's going. Like when is it going to end?
I don't know. I don't much like it.
And then maybe they just pull themselves out of it? Like because they've had enough because they're saturated with it?
I don't know. You know what's interesting? We went on Fully Loaded tour this summer, right? Both girls and Daisy worked fully loaded. So we were gone for 4 weeks. And I rarely, if ever, saw them on their device. They were engaged in what they were doing.
Right.
And obviously I saw them on it. They weren't completely offline. But it was pretty rare. Like I didn't have to go, hey, get off your phone and keep working. I don't remember. Now maybe Rachel and Jennifer downstairs had a different perspective because they worked with them more closely than I did. But I don't even remember them much being on their device to fall asleep. They were so tired. They just went to sleep. Whereas a lot of kids scroll before they go to bed, they get in and all of a sudden it's 2 hours later and they're still scrolling. As soon as we got back to reality, I thought they'd be right back on it, but they weren't. It took a minute. It took a minute for them to get back into the groove of that, let's post something. Let's what did so-and-so post? Who Snapchatted me? It took them a minute to get back into it. And I thought, isn't that interesting? I don't really know what that was about. I don't know if they were just so engaged or so busy with what they had going on, if they had their people with them. I mean, Isla didn't have a friend, but she was very comfortable with Georgia and Daisy most of the trip. The last week, she was a little bit like, where's my person?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really interesting. It was interesting to see them kind of just be teenagers.
And I think some kids are either just scrollers, they ingest it, and then some kids really like to get in there and create stuff.
Right.
Nova doesn't really, she doesn't Instagram a lot. She doesn't really do a lot of TikTok. There's definitely, it's the It's the
Ingesting.
scroll. Yeah, it's the ingesting. Well, Georgia, is she, obviously you're not with her, but I wonder how her consumption has happened, how it's gone down since she's sort of more independent and she's in college and she's much more responsible now for her own life. I wonder if there's less.
I bet I could probably look on her screen time. I can see their screen time.
Yeah.
I haven't looked at it in a long time. But I don't know. It's really curious. She's always with her friends.
Yeah.
She posts stuff a lot, but she's posting like from a waterfall.
Yeah.
Or, they went to a petting zoo for like large animals with cows and goats and stuff. And so she's always doing stuff. And the thing she's post usually is either with a bunch of friends or something really active.
Right.
So I feel like that's her good. Staying connected to her community, but she's definitely doing something. Right. She's not just sitting in her room,
right.
Posting. She posted, today, first day of school with her and one of her roommates were walking to class together. And I was like, that's awesome. So I don't know. It is curious. I should look at her usage and see how much she's online.
What I want to hear is that it's like as they go in, it just sort of like it just slowly that usage just starts to trickle down. Like you look back and you're like, oh my God, been there, done that.
Yeah.
Use it as a tool and as a connection thing. But I don't, I think that Nova use it as a down regulator. It's like a pacifier.
Yeah, right.
It's like a soother. It is. It's like,
right.
I'm going to take a nap. Like she'll still nap sometimes. And she's sort of moves through that, and then you're like, okay. But then she watches YouTubes, and she'll watch. Her whole thing is music and musical theater, so she'll look up a lot of musical theater stuff and kind of catch up with that type of content. I mean, like I said, I think the Gen Z Nova, she was a little bit more politically motivated, I would say, a year or so ago. I'm kind of happy that it's not so much now. Now she's just in, I think COVID, there was just so much going on and she got a lot more involved, and now she's just ingesting crap. just teenage and crap and a little bit more gossip.
Just cats jumping in the pool
she'll,
like
like Taylor Swift stuff now, and it's all
that kind of stuff,
and a little bit not so much, a little bit of Kardashian stuff and all of that. So that makes me happy. I'm like, great.
Yeah, totally.
Just know what Taylor Swift's doing. You're gonna be okay.
You're gonna be good. Stop there. That's where you can stop.
She's just gonna save everything.
Yep.
Taylor all the way.
Right.
I'm 100% behind you.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I have to ask you something.
Yeah.
How are you doing without your mom?
Oh, thanks for asking.
What a lovely human being
thank you.
Was.
Yeah. So August 2020. Oh God, what a crappy time to lose your parent in another country.
Yes.
Yeah, it was really shit. I feel incredibly fortunate, number one, that there was nothing left on the table. There was nothing unsaid. There was nothing left behind other than pure love.
Oh, that's
and
amazing.
That is such a gift. I feel lucky that it was a good death. And I really appreciate a good death. People have shit deaths.
Yes, true.
I have a lot of friends right now whose parents are dementia and Alzheimer's, and some of them have been for a really long time. Some of them are years, and that is a slow death that is incredibly painful.
Right.
And I'm with a lot of people right now that's what's happening. Another good friend of mine's just lost her mom that went through years and years. So there's a lot of reflection back on a choice almost that she made. She, in January, said, to her best friend, who was a nurse, I don't think I'm going to make it through to the end of the year. And so when she had that stroke, she had a do not resuscitate a DNR on file. She was in a rehab hospital, so her pneumonia came back very quickly, and she was 79. And I also think that my mother didn't want to make it to 80.
No,
she didn't want to be she didn't want to be an old person.
I could see that about
Grania
your
didn't
mom.
want to be an old person. Yeah. She would she complain about old people. Some of them might have been even a little bit younger than her, but she would complain like, I don't want to be with the old people.
Right.
So there was a lot of it. Yeah, so funny. Also, after that particular stroke, I know that my brother would have taken her. She would have to have lived with my eldest brother, which he would have done selflessly. And I know also so much of her would never wanted that for any of us. So there are all these parts of it that I remember over and over again. I miss her terribly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
Yeah. You just want to. This would be the time I'd be talking to her. This would be, those moments of that over and over again. It sucks losing your mom. It's hard. Or your parent that you're really like the one parent you're really, really, really connected to.
Yeah.
There is an orphan feeling after it.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah, no matter what age. I think I was just speaking to another friend of mine who just lost her mother, and she had a very, very prolonged illness, years. And she texted me and she's like, I really want to talk to you. And she has not called me yet about these feelings after my mom died. And I said, well, I think you have to expect to have some sort of existential crisis. And she's like, that's what I think it is.
Yeah.
You were questioning your existence again in the world on a massive scale. It was that part I did not expect.
Right.
Like where am I? Why am I here at this particular place? And like, what are the decisions that have led up to this moment? There's just sort of this shattering of normalcy. I think for me, there was after losing somebody so integral, like in my soul. So that I've kind of worked through, and I feel comfortable with where I am with that right now. I think part of the existential crisis is getting to grips. I've always been a very spiritual person, but I'm also very comfortable now with maybe there's nothing. Maybe there's absolutely nothing.
Right.
So I've worked very hard to not so hard, but feeling this sort of spiritual, as you call a universe, but the existential crisis, like it might be it.
Right.
Oh, and that's also okay. And so pulling that in, that if it's only this and there is nothing after, that's also incredible, of what incredible love I received from that person. And that's also enough, because sometimes the hook of that afterlife, I think, I have no idea what's after this, if there's anything. Neither does anybody. But the hook of it as well, like I may never actually be with this person ever again.
Right.
And also that has to be enough.
Right.
Like it all has to be enough.
Right.
Instead of thinking that there's more and there's more and there's more. And that really got me like tripped up for a little while. So now I feel like I'm great with, I'm okay with both.
Yeah. If you see her, great. If not,
yes,
you're okay.
Because it was enough. It's enough.
What a great way of looking at that. Because I was thinking while you were saying that was, if you think there's something else, you can't really relish what you had.
Yeah.
Because you think there's going to be one more thing.
Right.
So then you can't really be like that. I see what you mean. That was what my memories and my experiences and my feelings of this life and what I had with this person is what I have, and don't expect anything else.
Right.
But then you can be more in touch with those things that you have.
And even more grateful.
And even more, that's what I mean. Yeah. Even more, everything is intensified.
Yeah.
From this experience that you've had with them. I know I've been thinking about my dad.
Yeah.
A lot. My dad's in great shape. He's 75, healthy as a horse, but you never know what life brings. And I've been thinking selfishly, what am I going to do when this man passes away.
I know.
I don't know what I'm going to do.
You're so close to him.
I'm very close to my dad. And I don't want to think about it, but I am a planner. I am someone who goes, this is coming, lady. Empty nest is coming. What are you doing about it?
Yeah.
Dad's 75. What are you doing about it?
A different type of empty nest. It is a similar empty nest, yeah.
Oh, I guess so. I hadn't thought about it like that. But I guess it is.
Yeah.
And you know what Bert said to me not long ago? He said, my dad's mom and dad had 88 acres that was a farm that I spent my whole childhood on. I loved my dad's parents. I was so very close to them and connected to them, and I loved their farm. He had cattle and goats and pigs and chickens, and I just am really connected to that piece of property, because my dad moved so much, my mom moved so much. And Bert said, you're going to inherit your dad's portion of that farm. We should build a house there so you can always go home, because we don't have anywhere in Bowden. My dad lives in his wife's house, and I have no connection to that house. We have a lake house that he owns with everybody else, but that's not in my hometown.
Yeah.
I don't have anything in my hometown.
Yeah.
But I will inherit a little piece of that property. I don't know what piece or where, but he was like, while we're feeling good in anticipation of your dad's, possibly being in poor health, we have to think about that.
Yeah.
Maybe we should just build a little house on your granny's property. And then Granny and Pop, sorry, Pop. And that made me feel very hopeful.
Yeah.
That I would have him longer than when he leaves.
That's beautiful.
Yeah,
because I've got my my brothers and their family are there.
I don't have
where my
anybody.
mom, so we were just back there, and there's a connection, and we went to Dublin where we did part of her ashes, and I saw so much family that I hadn't seen in a really long time, and that's that touchstone, and it's important to me to obviously, see my brothers and go back to England, but the touchstone of Dublin as well, the birthplace and that family. I don't know what that looks like yet, but to try and keep some hand on that, and that becomes really important. So I understand that yearning,
right,
to do that.
It was very sweet of him to think of that.
That's really lovely. How are his parents?
They're great. They're super healthy too.
Yeah.
I think Al needs a hip replacement. That's on track for 76 years old. So he fell and broke his hip a few years back.
Right.
And they were like, you're going to have this replaced at some point.
Yeah.
So the time is now. And Gigi's doing great. She's doing great. They're just trucking along.
Yeah.
Gigi's coming out next week because I have a business trip. And she's coming to be Isla's chauffeur since she does not yet drive.
Isla's not driving.
Oh,
yeah.
no.
Yeah.
She doesn't even have a learner's permit. She's a little nervous, scared
well,
of it.
I drove for Gigi. So Gigi, yes, okay.
Yeah. There you go.
She's driving.
Oh, Gigi.
Love you, Gigi.
I know.
Love you.
Love you too.
I do love her, yeah.
Well, I'm so glad you came and hung out and talked about all this. It's been too long.
I know. This is a treat.
It is a huge treat.
Yeah, I miss you. I love you.
I miss you and I love you too.
Yeah.
And let's do better.
Yeah, let's do better.
Because I know a million times I've said, we got to come see your house.
Well,
and then
come
you go,
see
you
it.
do. You have to come.
Yeah,
and then we never
All
go.
right, well, let's figure it
we
out.
don't go past that. I go, hey, and you
just
go,
shoot. You just shoot me text when you're available.
Right.
You'll come and visit.
Same for you, because you're running a business and I'm running a business.
Well, and I'm right around the
busy.
corner from you.
I know, but your house isn't.
Yes.
Your house is.
But I'm around the corner from this house.
Yes, so we should
Just
have
up the
lunch
street.
sometime.
Yes.
Come over here and have lunch with us. I'll go over there and have lunch with you.
Yeah,
We
do
should
that.
make more of an effort because you are a dear, good friend I haven't seen in such a long time.
I know.
Life got busy.
Life got busy, and our girls kind of went in a little bit of a, that's also part of it.
Yes, it is.
But you are also one of the root friends of Los Angeles for
100%.
us. Yeah, so.
Yes, and John too. I love John. You know, John and I have a great relationship.
I know you do. He loves you.
I love John. He used to sneak over to my house sometimes. You know that, right?
No.
He would. He would sneak over and he'd come in and just go, it's like, you're with too many women, aren't you? And he'd go, I just needed a minute. He'd just sit in my house.
To you, the bro.
I'm the bro
I'm the
because
bro.
I am the bro. Bert would be out of town. John would just show up and then we'd hang out and talk for 15, 20 minutes. And he'd go, he sat with his little hand like this. all right, I'm going to go back. Okay, John, I'll see you later. He would do that all the time. We lived down the street.
I had no idea.
You didn't? I don't know. I have no idea. He never talked to me about what was happening. I had no idea. You may have had a fight. You may have just had sex. I have no idea what was happening. He would poke around my kitchen and see what I had in my kitchen.
He was looking for meat.
He was. I know. I called him the meat sneaker.
LeeAnn's bacon.
My bacon. He would sneak meat a lot. He would come in and poke around in my kitchen and sit in my backyard for a minute and
regroup. It was a great house. I love that house.
I love that house. I miss it too, and I love that you guys live down the street.
Yeah.
I miss that too.
Yeah, Bert's sister. You still have that. Bert's sister's in. Yeah,
his sister lives there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cotty.
I just laughed too hard. Now I'm going to cough a bit. I love you. Thank you for doing this. I appreciate it.